This is Angie Quidim with That's My Entertainment, and
Hey, this is Brandon Boyce. I'm the writer of Bad Samaritan.
let's talk about the movie. Now that everything's been released, it's been backed by Legion M, it was handpicked by Dean, and he did it with his own production company. He didn't bring it to studio, and that's a very special thing because a lot of times when stuff goes to studio, it gets butchered. So, how did this whole process start? Like,
Well, I had the idea for the film probably maybe 5 years ago, and was writing my first novel at the time, but I ran the idea past my reps, and they said, "Yeah, that's great. You should write that." So I put a pin in my novel for 3 months. I gave myself 3 months to write the script, and wrote the first draft. And one of the first people I sent it to was Dean, who I'd known for years personally, but we'd never worked together. And he said, "Yeah, I only have one note. Don't show it to anybody else. I'd like to do this." So in that time, he had the opportunity to make Geostorm, and that was kind of his big, save the world type of films that has a track record of doing. So he went and made that, and Bad Samaritan was kind of on the back burner. But then I think working with the studio with Warner Brothers kind of made him think, I don't really want to work with studios anymore. I'd rather have the control. And with his company, he's earned the right to do that now, and he can control what he wants to do. And Bad Samaritan was a much smaller film. We made it for $10 million or less than 10. And it was the right time, and he was like, let's gear up, let's get this thing to do. We can shoot it in Portland, where we already have an infrastructure with the TV shows that he does up there. And that was pretty much it. Once, he got it to David Tennant, who he really wanted to work with, and David said yes. And then he really liked Robert Sheehan, who had been in Geostorm. And I had rewritten the part basically for Robert to shoot in Portland. When I rewrote the film for Portland, I wrote it with Robert in mind as an immigrant from Ireland who comes to America and is feeling just kind of, like it's not working out the way he thinks it's supposed to. And that pretty much, sent us on our way. What initially started the idea creatively was just simply the idea of I'd been very interested in the faith we put in things like locks and passwords and things like that we believe keep us safe, and garage doors and stuff like that. When the reality is, when we go to a restaurant in Los Angeles, we give our keys to somebody, and most people give them all of their keys. House key, everything. You just give them all your keys.
right.
And then somebody is in your car now, and now our GPS features have a home button that can take you right to the house, and you've got an automatic garage door up top that opens a garage door when you get there, or you've got a registration with your home address, and then somebody's in your garage. I'm playing this out in my head. I never used to lock the door once I'm in my garage, into the kitchen. Most people don't lock that door. Now somebody's in your house, and all you're doing is eating dinner in a restaurant. I just started pulling on that thread and ended up saying, okay, now somebody's in your house, and what if they break into the wrong house? And that was the whole genesis of the movie. That's really how it started.
Now, the character that David Tennant plays, I mean, he's, I think we quoted him as the evil Bruce Wayne. How did that come about? What kind of research and what kind of inspiration went into that particular character?
So I'm very interested in a true psychopath and what that word means. I've done a lot of research about it and have written about that sort of general person in a lot of my films, just with different circumstances and different things going on in his or her life. Usually it's a man. A female psychopath is very rare. It happens. But I'm very interested in getting that type of character, right, and what it means to not really have any empathy for somebody, and the way that they can be very charming and charismatic, which David, of course, is, but his character would have, we get to see some of that in a few flashes. We get to see that he can be this very charismatic and charming kind of guy, or at least we know that he has been that in his past. We don't, we see him get in a very heightened state and get very agitated, which is actually rare for a psychopath. Normally they're very even-keeled. Nothing really phases them. They have very little anxiety. But late in this film, the other character, Sean, has gotten under his skin a little bit, which is kind of hard to do. I'm just fascinated with that particular animal and how they operate and how they move through life and how they have this kind of nomadic existence without really developing attachments to people. And there's a particular book I'd been using in my research at the time when I was writing. I gave a copy to Dean, I gave a copy to David Tennant just so they could have it, because I was really into it. And I'm sure they both said, oh, yeah, thank you very much. But the good news is they would at least defer to me on, would Cale do this, so I became the sort of voice about, a lot of things like that. That's the advantage of working with a guy like Dean, who basically is his own studio.
Right.
So that was great. That's great. I mean, there are certain things that studios do really well. They're very good at distributing movies and releasing movies, and that's, marketing films. That's what they do. That they understand that part of the job. But as far as the creative, the creative control, it was really unmatched on any film that I've worked on before. And Dean was very early on said, I'd like you to be involved in this process as much as you can be. So I was there from the first day of shooting to the last, involved creatively and helping to solve many of the problems that came up along the way. Like any shoot, a lot of it was weather related. We had lots of snowstorms, which Portland never historically gets, except for this year we got five snowstorms. So that was a very valuable experience, and it was great. We worked very closely together. It was a great partnership. We were looking for the next one to do together. So,
do you have any future projects that you can talk about?
I do. My future, my attention has been television for the last couple of months. I've got some shows that I'm developing that I'm working with some other people on. But I'm always going to be a film screenwriter. I love it. So just always looking for the next thing that interests me.
Fantastic. Well, I hope you work with the Legion again, because I think they were pretty happy with Bad Samaritan.
The Legion was great. They were there really to see. It was really truly film fans. Every step of the way. Whether it was a group of 5 or a group of 30 or a group of 20 that went to a movie, it was people who really love movies, and that enthusiasm is contagious. So, God bless them.
So I do have a question, because I have a couple of people that are in the Legion that may be interested in screenwriting or being part of the business. What kind of advice would you give to someone who has absolutely no clue, other than, like you, they love films?
Well, you've got to write that spec. You have to write your script, whether it's a 30-minute, half-hour comedy, or whether it's an hour drama TV show, or whether it's the movie you have in your head. And if writers write, so that's really it. You've got to get that. You've got to get those scripts done. And once you finish with it, you've done your job, and it's now the job of other people to help you get it made. But you need to start your next one. And if that always seems like it's too hard, then you're probably in the wrong career.
Now, if they want to follow you on social media, or they want to see anything more that you've done, where can they look?
You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Instagram, and you can find me on Facebook if I know you.
All right. Thank you so much.